Hey everyone, Neil here, back with episode 3. We're going to get into creating blocks and doing block rendering. So we're going to head into our workspace here. And there are going to be quite a few classes that we want to get started with here. So this is actually going to be kind of a long video. I'm going to let you guys know in about 10 to 15 minutes my kids will be arriving home from school, so there's going to be quite a bit of background noise. I'll try to clean it up in post-production and hopefully it won't be too bad, but fair warning. Alright, so let's take a look at our packages that we have. We have our mod package, we have our proxy package. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually simultaneously create a block class and our block package. So we're going to name this blocks. This is going to be ng block, and this guy is going to house most of the properties that we are using to create our other blocks. In addition to this, I'm also going to create an ng blocks class, and I'll kind of show you why I'm doing this. So underneath our forge source, we can go down to net minecraft.block. We have our block class, right? This really contains all of the properties for a block, right? Whereas if we go down to net.minecraft.init, we have the blocks class, plural. And in here is where all of our blocks are defined and then registered, right? So we're really going to be modeling our block and our blocks class after that. So in our ng block class, really what this is going to do, this is going to kind of set the stage for how we go through and define each of our blocks. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to extend the block class. We're going to import that, make sure that it's not Jorbus, it's not Nashorn, whatever. It's a Minecraft block. Now it's going to tell us that we have some stuff that we need to do here. We're going to do that manually. So we are going to say public ng block, and the values that we're going to be carrying over with this, we're going to have string unlocalized name. We're going to pass along a material. We're going to pass along a hardness in the value of in the form of a float value, and we are also going to pass along the resistance in the value of a float. That looks good. So we're going to say super, which is going to be our material. That actually cleans up our errors. We just need to import our material. Again, make sure that it's under the Minecraft package. Now, what we want to do is we want to say this dot set unlocalized name is going to be our unlocalized name. We're going to close that up with a semicolon. We're going to say this dot set hardness is going to be our hardness variable, and we're going to say this dot set resistance is going to be our resistance variable. Awesome. I'm supposed to stay on this high protein, low carb diet. Now, what we want to do is we want to return the item. Actually, you know what? No, we don't need to do anything. We'll cover that one later. Cool. So now, what we want to do is we want to look at our ng blocks class. In here, this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to have some methods that we create ourselves. The first one is we're going to have public static void, and we are going to be initting our blocks. So we're going to create that method like so. We are going to that's actually all we need. So let's actually create a block that we want, and we are going to say that that will be public static block, and let's do copper ore, and we'll import our block class, again making sure that it's Minecraft. Now let's go through and actually register that block, and we're going to be doing that in our init blocks class. So this is going to fall under ores, so I'm just going to throw in a comment for ores. We're going to do game registry dot register block, and what we're going to have is going to be copper ore is going to equal a new ng block, ng block, we're referencing that class that we just created, and like so. Now there's some parameters that it's asking for, right? Remember that it's asking for the string that we wanted to pass along, the material, the float, and the float. However, the register block function itself requires some additional stuff on top of that. So for our copper ore, really what we're going to do is we're just going to match this up the same as iron ore. So we're going to pass in our unlocalized name. This is important for texturing. We are going to pass in our material, which is going to be material.rock. We are going to pass in our hardness, which will be a 3, and we are going to pass in our resistance, which will be a 15. Now, our game registry register block function is also going to want something out of this as well. So we are going to put in our copper ore just like we had before right here. So there we go. That is our block. Our block is ready to go. Now, what we can do is fire up Minecraft like so. See if I remember my console commands here. And we'll go in, we're going to create a new world like so. And make this bigger. We're going to come in and see if we can find our copper ore. And boy is it dark. Let's find a clear area to work here. Cool. We'll stay away from the piggies. And we will plunk down right here. Not a lot of grass right here. So we're good. Alright, so let's see if we can do give ng colon. How does that work? You know what? We'll do it this way. Do it this way. I can go back and look that up real fast, but we'll just do this. We are going to add another comma, and we're going to say this dot set creative tab. Will that work? You know what? I have a better idea. We will come in here and we will say this dot set creative tabs, and oh gosh, what is that going to be? Get creative tab. Do. Let me look this up real fast.
I'm not used to physical activity.
Tab materials? Set creative tab. I didn't want to get into creative tabs just yet, but I want to make it easy for us to get into it. You know what? I have this completely wrong. I think I know what I did. Set creative tab. That's right. Creative tabs dot, and we were just going to put this in tab materials. like so. And we're going to save that up. Now we'll fire it up. We're going to find our copper ore block and play with it a little bit.
I would love to help you to make it about fueling your body. And when you have children, you don't think about yourself. They say, Mom, I'm hungry. Okay, what do you want? You have to make the decision that this surgery, which is a big deal, changed your life enough that you matter. And we'll get there.
There we go. So tab materials, and it is not there. You know why it's not there? Because even though we registered it here, we never actually initialize this particular guy right there. And we need to go in to our proxy class. We're going to go to our common proxy, and under pre-init, we are going to say ng blocks.init blocks, like so. Now let's fire it up. Now we're actually calling that method that we created in our block declaration class and rolling with it.
You can be up here, but you gotta sit still. You're not gonna climb all over my lap.
We are throwing some errors in the background here. Really, that has to do with the Json files for the block states, the models, the textures, all that, which we have not done yet. So that's good. It's saying, hey, this is in the game, but we don't know what it looks like. We don't know how it's supposed to appear, anything like that. So here we have our copper ore. Let's grab an iron ore, and then we will grab a iron pickaxe, and we're going to plunk that down. We're going to plunk that down, and we are going to change our game mode to 0, and we'll hammer that down. So you see how long that takes? It takes the same time for a copper ore. Super cool. Yeah, I like that. So coming back in here, right, so let's go back to our blocks class, and I'm going to do this for Comic Man. Where is it? Here we go. This is my 1.7.2 code from the previous modding tutorial. So as we scroll down, you'll see that what I did is in my main modding class, that's where I declared a lot of my ores, right? We scroll down a little bit further to this pre-init method. You'll see that I will initialize these items with their unlocalized names. Blocks, where's the blocks? Where's the blocks? Where's the blocks? Right here. So I'll go through and initialize the copper ore, right? And then down here, I go through and I actually register that copper ore, right? So now I'm actually doing that all in this one class just by declaring it right here. I register it right here, and then in my main class, in my proxy class, I'm calling that function from here, and then in my pre-init class over here, I'm actually calling that proxy, right? Our common proxy that we named. So we see proxy here. We know that when we hit this function right here, it's initializing over here, which is then turning to our ng blocks class. So really what this is doing is it's keeping everything in its right place. All the blocks are going to be in this blocks class. All of our items will be in an item class when we cover that. So really all we have to do is just come in here. We declare what we want our block to be. Next one will be nickel ore. We can just copy and paste this line right here, and then I will grab this and copy and paste it into these three areas right here, and then boom, we now have nickel ore in the game. Kids are home. Prepare for noise. I was right on the money with that. Good on me. So we'll come in, tab materials. We're going to change our game mode back to 1. Tab materials, and now we'll see our nickel ore in here. Now again, no textures, no names, because we haven't done any of our assets at this point, right? We'll come back to that. Now you'll notice that it's automatically putting these into that tab materials section. And that's because when I went into this ng block class, I specifically said in our constructor right here that that's where it's going to go. So every time we put in a block, that's where it's automatically going to go. And we'll leave it that way until we do a creative tab, which I'm going to bring in after items. So we'll do blocks today, or blocks right now, items maybe tomorrow at this point. And then we'll do our creative tabs. And let me actually make sure that I put creative tabs on my to-do list here. Creative tabs, cool. Separate window over here. So coming back here, right, this is pretty much all we had to do. We had a blocks class called OrBlocks, right? And really what this OrBlock class is doing is this OrBlock class is doing the same thing as this block, regular block class that I just declared. Now you'll see we have this function here that was for like a jewel. So like with a diamond, right? Unless you have Silk Touch, when you mine diamonds, it doesn't give you diamond ore, it pops out a diamond for you. We're going to be dropping this function into our other mod later on. We also get the quantity that we want to drop. That's not relevant, and this particularly is not relevant at all because we have a completely different way of registering what those look like. So hopefully, Comic Man, this is kind of helping you understand the differences between 1.7 and 1.8 in terms of how you're initializing and setting up all of these blocks. So, what we need to do is we need to create some folders underneath our assets. And this is really critical that we're doing this the right way, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come to our source main resources. We're going to put in a new package, and this is going to be named assets.ng.blockstates. And the reason why it's NG and not New Gaming is because of this guy. It's looking for your mod ID right here in the middle between assets and block states. And it's absolutely imperative that you make this lowercase. Don't make it uppercase, or otherwise it's not gonna do that. I know that previously when I've done tutorials, that was kind of a sticking point for all of us when we were trying to go through and get it figured out. So make sure make sure that those are lowercase. So assets.ng.models.block. So we're creating that one, and we are also going to do a new package. We're going to take off block and we're going to put in item. And then what we're going to need is another one that is going to be assets. I stumbled there. I just saw an error, a boo-boo that I made, and I know that you guys are probably sitting in your chairs being like, dude, you're fucking it up. Assets.textures.blocks. Remember, I'm doing this as blocks, but my model was block. Let's refactor and rename this real fast. There we go. Oh, damn it. I did another one. I was like, why is textures above models? Because of this. Okay, there we go. And we need to do another package while we're here. We will just go ahead and do this for items. And one more. We're going to do a package, and this one is going to be assets. Get it again. .ng.lang. L-A-N-G. All right. So, you know what? Let's knock this lang file out real fast. Because I think that will be easiest. So we're going to come in. We're going to do new. We're going to do other. General. Untitled text file. And let's go ahead and save this as, and we're going to come down to our source main, resources, assets, ng, lang. We're going to name this en_us.lang. Make sure you put the file extension on there. So what we want to do now is we want to come in and put in what the name of our how do you say, the name of what our ores are. So this is pretty straightforward. We will do tile.copper ore dot name is going to equal copper ore, and we're going to tile dot nickel ore dot name is going to equal nickel ore. Put a space in here. So really what this is this is just that unlocalized name that we originally do here. We try to keep it consistent all the way through. So we will save that. We will come back to one of these other windows, we'll run it, and let's see what our names look like. Neighbor kids are coming by to say hi. Alright, let's jump in and make sure that we got these names right. And that looks good. So we'll come down to tab materials. We've got a nickel ore, we've got a copper ore. Looking good. Alright, now let's work on the block states for these. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back over to here. I have my main modding folder, and as we did in episode 1, we pulled those assets out. So let's come in here and let's look at the block states for diamond ore. Diamond ore. Alright, so this is pretty much what we have right here. Right? So what we'll do is we're going to copy this. We are going to come down here to our block states. We're going to do a new other untitled text file, and we are going to name this bad boy. We will save it as. We're going to point back down to there. I wish that it just traced the path. And we are going to name this copper ore using the same naming convention that I have so far. We're going to name this copper ore.json, JSON. We'll paste this in, and then really all we need to do at that point is we're going to change the model to copper ore, but we have to point it in the right direction. So to do that, we're going to put our mod ID right in front of that. So that takes care of our block state. Now, I'm kind of a lazy dude, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this to nickel. I'm going to File, Save As, Block States, and I'm going to change the copper right here to nickel. So that way we've taken care of both of those at the same time. Right, so next thing we want to do is come into this folder. We want to back out. We want to go to our models for our block. And we're going to go to diamond ore. There it is, right? So it shows up just like this. A little bit different. We're going to copy this. We're going to come in. We're going to do a new untitled text file. We'll paste that in, and we're going to change this to copper ore, and in front of blocks we're going to put in our mod ID. We're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to go plunk this down into our models block, like so. And we are going to name this just like we did before. It's going to be copper ore.json. And again, just like last time, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say nickel ore, and then I'm going to do a file, save as nickel ore. Sweet. So we've got those taken care of. Let's close those up. So we've got our models, right? We've got those. Let's get our textures in here. Now, what I've done in the past is I will come in and I will find a texture that I want to use. I'm going to go ahead and open this up with paint.net. Where's that? Right here. Open with paint.net. Free program. Really awesome. We'll open this up. We can select all, and then from here we can just change the hue, right? And it's only affecting the actual colors. It doesn't affect anything that's grayscale, right? So you can really just kind of slide this back and forth all you want, come up with all kinds of different options for those. I, however, already have my textures created for both of these. So we're going to give that guy a little shrinky shrink. We're going to come over here and, where am I at? So I'm going to go to where my textures are for my blocks, and I've got copper ore and nickel ore, and I'm just going to drag those right here into this textures.blocks. We're just going to copy those in. And what I need to do real fast is rename these. You may actually have, I didn't actually right click on that, sorry. Pretty much in the whole Windows environment, and in rare exceptions in here, you can just hit the F2 key to rename. So really what I did is I just hit F2 and then I inserted my smaller copy of that. So we've got our block states, we've got our block models, we have our block textures. Let's fire it up. Didn't like that. For some reason I found that when I'm doing this I have to actually click within this window behind here, or otherwise it generates an error when I go to run it. So we'll blow this up, jump into our world. And we'll take a look at our ores. Right, so we come in, we look at materials, we see that they're named properly, but they don't have textures for them. However, when we place one down, it does have a texture. The reason why is we actually have to create a model for the item, because that's how it appears in hand, in our action bar, and also in the inventory. So let's go back. What we're going to do is we're going to reference this folder. We're going to come back into our assets folder, and this is, I'm hoping that this kind of helps understand why I had you put these folders here, because we're just going to be referencing them all the time. So we'll go into our models, and even though this is a block, when we look at the models for items, we're going to see a JSON file in here for diamond ore. Diamond ore. Diamond ore. There we go. Right? So we will copy this, and this is the item model for our block. So we will come in here to models, items. We are going to do other text file. We are going to save, save as. We are going to save this as copper-ore.json. We're going to point this down here to our resources folder. And models, and then item. And we will paste this in. Again, we're going to put in our mod ID, like so. We are going to change this to copper ore, and we are going to save it. And then we will come in and actually change this to nickel ore, and we are going to save as, to make sure we don't overwrite our other one, nickel ore. So now Okay, so here's the deal. We have both of our textures. We have our block states for each one. We have our lang file where we have named both of them. We have the models for the block as they are placed in the world, the models for the item of the block as they appear in your hand, on your action bar, and in your inventory. And then we have the textures themselves. So, this is, yeah, so we'll get back to our regular class. I need to figure out why that task bar is, or that toolbar is flip-flopping on me. We will embiggen the window. That's a GNOME reference, by the way, embiggen. We'll jump into our world, and we should see, voila. Did not work. Did not work. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Ah, that is a good point. We have to register and render these bad boys, which we will, we're going to create some classes for these. So, coming up here, we are going to create a new package, and this one I'm just going to name render. And what we'll do is we're going to create a class for ng block render. And in here, we're going to have a couple of classes. So we are going to name this final, actually, and we're going to give ourselves some space to work. We're going to do public static void register block render register block render. That's good enough. A little bit different from what I have in my notes, but that's okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to specify that this is one of our ORs, and we are going to reg block. Oh, I know why I did that. We'll just call it reg block. That's good enough. And it is going to be ng blocks.copperOR, and we are going to really just copy and paste that, and we're going to put in nickel right here. You'll see that it's giving us an error, and that's just because we haven't created that method yet. So we will go in and we will say public static void reg block, and we are going to be looking for the block, and we're going to give it the name of block for our variable, like so. We'll do a quick import to get that block class in here. Import our block class. Now this one is kind of a long one, so we're going to have Minecraft dot get Minecraft dot get render item dot get item model mesher dot register. And what we're going to say is it's calling it for an item, right? It's saying that I need an item right here. Well, I don't have an item. I have a block. So what I have to do is I have to say item dot get item from block. Now I can call my block, right? I'm going to move over one. It's going to ask for a meta function right here, and then it's going to ask for our definition. And so what we're going to do is we're going to type in new model resource location. Pardon me. This model resource location is going to be coming from, it's essentially a string of what that particular name is. So we're going to be referencing our mod ID. I'm going to do that with ngglobal.modID. I'm going to be putting in a colon. So we will put in our colon like so. And I'm going to append onto that block dot get unlocalized name. And we are going to substring this, which means we're going to be taking off the last 5 we're going to be taking off the last 5 characters off of its unlocalized name. Now its unlocalized name is copper.name, so we're taking off, it's tile.copperOre. So we're taking off substring, we're taking off the first 5. So yes, we're taking that off, and we're going to toss this onto the end. Inventory. Make sure you spell that right. Don't be like me. We will import our model resource location, and at this point you should have no errors. So we will jump into the game. Will we jump into the game? Wait. No, wait. Let me close this. We don't want to do that. Go away. Damn it. Shit. Go away. Thank you. I'm feeling like there's something else that I need to do. I can't think of what that is. We're done with this. We can close it. We can close our JSON file. We don't need ng global. Let's open up our client proxy class, because we have to make that thing fire, right? The stuff that we just created in here, right? We're gonna call this essentially, which is going to hit these 2 functions, which pass them along into here. But we need to make this method fire right here. So we will actually do that in our client proxy, and we are going to come into here, and we're going to type in ng block. What is that called? Ng block render, and we are going to register block. So now it's going to fire, right? And as we kind of progress through this setup right here, I'm reorganizing these windows like so. In main.java, we're hitting this guy, which in turn comes over here to our ng blocks class, goes to our common proxy, where we initialize our blocks right here, goes through, registers them, we come down here to this bad boy, which then fires off our client proxy, because that extends the common proxy right there. Boom. So now let's take a peek and see where we're at. Oh man. Watch for errors. See, here's where it's going through the 16 by 16 and then the 512 by 512. It's not giving me any PNG errors. It's not giving me any JSON errors. So we should be good at this point. And in Biggin. Alright, so we can see that our copper ore is now rendering properly in our inventory. So is our nickel ore. And when we plop down our nickel ore, that looks good. Let's change our game mode to 0. We're going to mine these up. Drops the block. Drops the block. Adds to the inventory. We are good to go. So, that was a long fucking video, and I apologize for that. I'm going to be zooming on JSON files at this point. We can have the community discussion down below on JSON files and how we're using those. Like I said, make sure at the main part, at that first video, that you had pulled out that assets in those texture folders, because you'll save yourself a lot of time by doing the old copy pasta and getting them in there. So, as always, like, comment, subscribe, helps me out a lot. Questions below, and we can address any errors, anything like that you might have. So, lots of love, and I will see you next time for items. Bye-bye.